The foreign scene tonight, a fire which broke out at a factory in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, has left 9 people dead and 15 more injured. The cause of the fire is not clear, but local media is reporting it broke out at a knitting section of Aswad Composite Mills, and that water shortages and a lack of nearby fire stations had allowed the blaze to escalate. Meanwhile, U.S. President Barack Obama says he is willing to hold talks with the Republicans only if they agree to lift what he called threats against the economy. At a press conference in the White House earlier this evening, Mr. Obama warned of the repercussions of defaulting on the government's debt should Congress fail to raise a borrowing limit to be reached on October 17. He said the United States will not be held ransom for failing to pay its bills.
Everybody should say one of the most valuable things we have is America's creditworthiness. This is not something we should even come close to fooling around with. And so when I read people saying, oh, this wouldn't be a big deal, we should test it out. Let's take default out for a spin and see how it rides. And I say, imagine in your private life if you decided that I'm not going to pay my mortgage for a month or two. First of all, you're not saving money by not paying your mortgage. You're just a deadbeat. And you can anticipate that will hurt your credit, which means that in addition to debt collectors calling, you're going to have trouble borrowing in the future. And if you are able to borrow in the future, you're going to have to borrow at a higher rate. Well, what's true for individuals is also true for nations, even the most powerful nation on earth. And if we are creating an atmosphere in which people are not sure whether or not we pay our bills on time, then that will have a severe long-term impact on our economy and on America's standard of living. And that's not something that we should even be in a conversation about. That is not something that we should be using as leverage.
U.S. President Barack Obama speaking on the effects of the shutdown in the U.S. economy and why the borrowing limit has to be lifted. Over now to Temitope Fagbemi for a summary of other major stories on the foreign scene.
The world body in charge of chemical weapons says it will deploy a second team of inspectors to Syria to boost its program to destroy the country's stockpile. However, it did not say how many extra inspectors would be sent or when. Under a UN resolution, Syria's chemical weapons, mixing and filing equipment must be destroyed by November the 1st. Now it's time to reap the reward of a job well done. 2 scientists have been awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for their work on the theory of the Higgs boson. They are Peter Higgs from the United Kingdom and Francois Englert from Belgium.
Theoretical mechanism that Englert and Higgs proposed and which led to this Higgs particle explains why fundamental particles have mass. And we all know that mass is an important property. We feel it all, daily. But it's an equally important property also for the fundamental particles that build up atomic nuclei, atoms, molecules, and then us. And in order to understand how these fundamental particles work, what their nature is, and what are their interactions, one needs to be able to explain the fact that they do have mass. And this is what is now finally done.
Still in Europe, Euro members of Parliament have voted to tighten tobacco regulations aimed at putting young people off smoking, but some measures were dropped. The MEPs rejected a European Commission proposal to treat electronic cigarettes as medicinal products, a move that would have restricted sales. They, however, backed a ban on menthol cigarettes, but with a 5-year delay. Meanwhile, the European Commission has proposed that the EU launches a Mediterranean-wide search and rescue patrols to intercept migrant boats. The move by Home Affairs Commissioner Cecilia Malmström was prompted by the death of at least 250 migrants after their boat sank off the Italian island of Lampedusa. Finally, a diplomatic row may be brewing between Libya and the United States as the North African country has summoned the U.S. ambassador to the country for questioning over the weekend capture of a suspected al-Qaeda leader on Libyan territory. Hannes al-Libi is suspect in the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, was seized in the capital Tripoli on Saturday. And that's the foreign news wrap-up.
And the main news again, 2 buildings reportedly at number 12 and 14 Edmore Street by Wilmer Crescent, Olodiapapa, are on fire. And the Nigerian National Emergency Management Agency is at the scene and is already evacuating residents of the buildings. There are fears a fire could spread to other buildings, and there's been a call to relevant agencies to come in and curb the situation. We'll bring you details on that as soon as we get them. Also, the Senate has summoned the Aviation Minister, Stella Odua, to answer questions concerning safety of the nation's airspace. Nigeria has dropped charges against 7 Russians standing trial for illegal arms importation. The All Progressives Congress has launched its campaign in Anambra State, presenting Senator Chris Ngige as the party's candidate, and at least 9 people have been killed in a fire at a clothing factory in the Bangladeshi capital, Dhaka. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. Good night.